welcome to another episode on The Divorce Coach. My name is Simone and I'm the divorce coach based in Germany.
And hi, I'm Claire and I'm a divorce coach based in Northern Ireland.
Yeah. Sadly, Salma dropped out for today, but we have decided we would still come together and have a little bit of talking about something that will probably be of really great interest of you all. And it's with the like buzzword support system. And in times when we are overwhelmed and we need to make decisions and our emotions are all over the place, especially when it's about a future that needs a new setup, it's potentially very, very important that you give yourself the thought of setting up a support system. And Claire and I would like to discuss how we experienced that throughout our divorce. Did we have the right support system? Did we have a support system? And what, as divorce coaches, do we think should be within your support? So let's go and jump right in. So do you remember, Claire, when you went into your divorce, whether or not you needed a support system?
Yeah, it's really interesting, actually, because I remember thinking after I sort of stepped out of my marriage as a nurse, I thought, oh, it's probably a good idea to tell my GP. So I went to my GP, not having any particular expectation, but thinking it's probably a good idea that I tell him because life was a bit overwhelming. And my GP listened for a bit, asked a few questions, and gave me a prescription for antidepressants. And I remember sitting in the car in the GP surgery, looking at this thing going, I am lots of things right now. I am not depressed. And I remember slamming my fist on the steering wheel thinking, I am damned if that man is putting me on antidepressants, meaning my ex-husband. I didn't even know I was angry until that moment in time when, oh my goodness, the anger came from my toenails up. And I thought, well, there's a surprise, because I literally would have said, no, I'm not angry. And seeing as I was the one who decided to step out of the marriage that I felt wasn't working. Yeah. So when we talk about support team, generally I would say, as a nurse, your support team should include your GP. Well, mine didn't exactly work out in any particular way. So I remember then when I did the first training that I did for divorce coaching where we met, I remember when we learned all about the idea of a support system thinking, that's a really good idea. And what I realized when I looked at it during our training is that I thought I had a lot of people. So I had a divorce lawyer, I had a counselor, I had different types of friends at different levels. So certain friends I used for different things because of just the way our friendship was. I included a financial advisor at one point. I had to change my mortgage when I decided to buy my ex-husband out of the house that we had owned. So I had a mortgage advisor, but I didn't ever join the dots. I had different people, but in my head, I didn't join the dots until we did our training. And I suddenly thought, oh, I did have a support system, but I didn't realize I had a support system because I hadn't thought about it like that. And what I loved about the concept was it was almost like I had my scaffolding all around me. And so for me, with my clients now, and I'm sure you're the same, I talk about a support system quite a bit because I frame it like a scaffolding. And I would say to people, if you're doing a house and extending it, your scaffolding goes up and down depending on what you're doing. So you can change your support system, change the feeling of support. But I look back and I think if I had understood the concept of a support system, I think it would have been a bigger feature of security, maybe is a good word. I would have felt less alone, yeah. And because I had all the individual parts of it, I hadn't pulled them together. So they were individual parts. And very often I still felt a bit like, oh, who do I need to speak to? What do I need to do? How do I do this? I think if I had joined the dots and understood the framework of a support system, I would have found that much easier and less, what's the word? When you have like a duck underwater and their feet are flapping, less flappy, because I would have felt, no, I have people. Who do I need for this? Which one of them do I need for this? Yeah. And that's what our training did for me.
Yeah. Yeah, this is what I thought. I mean, two things that came up for me is I think it's incredible how we intuitively, but never underestimate how well we already do, because intuitively we keep moving forward, we survive. But because we're in this survival mode, that's then what I thought when we said I had all these people. Maybe we then didn't look how to instrumentalize it, making use of them the way it was taught to us. it's done. So basically you have this one person for the legal questions, and you could then organize yourself around it and say, you know what, this legal guy is for my legal questions, and the mortgage guy or the financial person are for the financial questions, and how would I have to approach them in order to make the most along the process of my legal support system. I get that. And I didn't have that, I have to say, but that was because I divorced abroad. I didn't have a very safe environment, because it is quite normal as an expat that people come and go. And there was very little referral within our community in terms of legal representation, and friends come and go. So I was really lacking that.
And your family wasn't physically close either.
My family wasn't there. Having said that, though, my family and I at that point, because we will talk about growth very soon, I think I could tell that my family and I weren't pretty close, which we are now, but we only grew closer because of my divorce. So,
Okay.
yeah. So yesterday I had 2 new exploratory calls with women who signed up, and I realized how important it is, because when they called me, there was so much loneliness, and even one was more on the emotional stuckness. The other one was of moving forward stuckness, but they were doing it alone. And I realized how important it is that we can facilitate that knowledge and say, you know what, let's have a look who else you need. That we as divorce coaches might be the first place to contact if you don't know other way. But then, you know what, let's look, you know what do you already have? Oh, here's something I can think of immediately. Because very often we already have, and that ties back to what you said, you know, when you rearrange your furniture and you never really need new furniture, sometimes you just need to basically rearrange it and give it like a new meaning, like a different angle or a new room for the same furniture. And I think this can be also of big knowledge in this episode. You know what, have a look, maybe you do have, and let's do you want to repeat again who should be in your support system? Who do you really need to move you through this?
Yeah. Well, I mean, the obvious thing, well, actually, a lot of people don't tend to use a solicitor, for quite a lot of it. But I always think it's a good idea to go to a solicitor initially to find out what you don't know. Because when you don't know what you don't know, your expectations go to places that you end up thinking, but I thought it would be that. So to me, a solicitor is a pretty pivotal person.
Yeah.
Then I really feel some sort of, depending if you have any medical issues, you need your medical team around you as well. Financial advisor is a really good idea, because you probably have never looked at what money would you need in the future, what money would you need from pensions, how do you protect yourself going forward if you're doing financial arrangements, especially if you hadn't really done too much.
Can I ask you, because we don't have those in Germany, could you maybe explain the concept of a financial advisor and what questions to ask? So even if we don't have the financial advisor, but maybe if we already have the right questions, maybe there is a way to Google it or to ask people who give you an answer. Can you just, I don't know, elaborate on that?
There's a difference. There's a difference over here. We have financial advisors and we have financial planners. And I hadn't heard about financial planners until I did my second divorce coach training. And I remember thinking, flip me, that's a pretty amazing thing. So when the financial planner came onto our course and did a session with us, she had a software system in her computer that she could input, what were the outgoings now, what ages were the children, what were the predicted outgoings, what was the estimated, what was the income that you had in your household, what was the estimated income if you were going to get maintenance, what would you need going forward. If you were close to retiring age, what would you need to retire on? So she was able to do a prediction forecast to fairly accurately predict what amount of money per month or per year you would need to have a life that would be fairly similar to what you have, or in some way to have a life that you would be happy with. Okay. And I hadn't heard of that concept, which I thought was really good. So I suppose even just Googling financial planner and what does a financial planner do, you'll get the questions that they would be asking you of things to think about. I didn't have any of that. I didn't know what to think. So I didn't. A financial advisor would look at what have you got in your own stocks and shares? Do you have assets? What assets have you got? what would be a good use of your money, that if you were getting a lump sum from your other partner, in a divorce settlement, what is the wisest way to think about using it? Ultimately your decision, but would it be to pay off your mortgage, or would that benefit you clearing it? Sometimes they say that if your mortgage is cleared, it's harder to get credit. So it's very often a good idea to keep a small mortgage, because from a credit aspect, you're a safer lending bet to companies and banks and things. So there's lots of stuff that we don't know necessarily. And for me, it's the idea of, let's find out. And I would say to financial advisor, what do you think I need to be aware of? Because I'm not quite sure. And then you let them with their experience come in and go, well, I think you need to think about what's in your pension. Do you want a share of your partner's pension, or would you prefer to get money in lieu of that now and invest it into something to put towards a pension in the future? Because if you do that, then you're not still connected to your partner in the future. Whereas if you do a pension share, there's still a sense of being connected. So it depends on the type of relationship you have with your to-be ex-partner. But there are things that, I look and I think, well, I thought that was a good idea based on nothing other than I thought it was a good idea. And now I think, actually, getting financial advice, you may not choose to use it, but to me, most financial advisors and most solicitors will give you a free half an hour. So Google lots of things around it. On a divorce journey, what would be a good thing for me to think about? And bring your questions to a financial advisor, and you'll get a lot of information in half an hour when you go with questions.
Yeah. So this is basically kind of like in brackets. It's different in Germany. The pension will be, there is a rule, there's a law in place. It will just stop. There is a date, they stop it, they split it. And then
that doesn't happen here.
Yeah, no. There is a law. So basically then, and then the financial advisors that I can think of, they already come in and they want to take your money and start, the ones I know over here, and they want to start working with it. So what I love about the concept that you just presented is, it doesn't seem that they push you into a decision that you're probably not even ready to do. I really much like the idea of the planner who is looking at the status quo. Where are you at? I mean, basically just look at the numbers. So where are you at? It's not so much where will you want to be, but also if I want to go there, I really need to know while I go through divorce where
it also helps you to find your voice on a financial level when you're discussing finances with your partner. Because in a lot of marriages, there's a bit of a stereotypical thing where the woman does the children, the house, the man does the finances. And that's still there, And so part of it would be, what do you need going forward? And how do you find your voice, so that if somebody offered you something in a financial settlement and you thought, flip, that sounds amazing. Is it amazing? Is it going to be enough? Is it going to do what you need it to do? Another thing a financial advisor will help you to do is look at your insurances. Do you need life insurance? Do you need income protection insurance if you're a single person with a mortgage? What do you need that would be a good idea to think about, and how much could you get it for? So that you wouldn't automatically think, I can't afford that, that's too expensive, based on nothing but your thoughts. You're basing it on facts. I'm a firm believer, get all your facts, put them on the table, and then make decisions from facts. That's kind of how I operate in the world.
I love that you said it will enlighten you and give you a voice if you have the vocabulary. I mean, if we come to the negotiation table, and I think very often that is what happens, especially if we have a very, old days classic relationship. I don't mind, what we can have as, but if you don't want to work, I'd be the least person who says don't do it. But if you do, and you don't know what needs to be shared and what is potentially out there, I love that this person then can help you word what is part of the negotiation table. Because on the other hand, if you were the person who did the parenting, you know exactly what the parenting is about, right? You know what, you go in and you're really full of self-confidence because you know exactly what it's about, what children need. And but divorce is—
You're right, it's about empowering confidence so that you're not left floundering. It's about control, I think. When you have a sense of understanding, you have a sense of control back in your world. So what would you need to do to get that? And from a finances perspective, a solicitor will give you ideas, but I feel that a financial advisor would give you more specifics and maybe talk about things. Maybe you haven't thought about insurance. Maybe you haven't thought about something. So actually, they open up your world to go, is that a good idea? Do I need it? So you're able to make informed choices.
That's exactly it. That's exactly it. And you know, if we know solicitors, I mean, they all work with the same law. You need to go in and you have to have your own ideas, what you want the solicitor go after, right?
Yeah.
So,
But so often people don't. People
no,
don't go in and drive this as they go in and go, what do you think? What do you think I need to do? What should I do?
I know.
Um, but continuing on, what do we need? I think in a support team, we need friends and we need some really good friends. And we need to be careful as well sometimes that we don't overshare with friends certain things about our divorce journey, because that's not necessarily in our best interest. So be aware that some friends are going to be closer to you by way of information sharing. And that's just something that's just because of what it is. We all end up being attracted to certain people on a friendship level, and some friendships just click very quickly. The other person that you and I, of course, would be talking about would be a divorce coach, because we went into divorce coaching because we didn't have us. And I see myself as a little bit of like a London tube map. I'm able to signpost my clients to resources, to people, to mediation, to different solicitors, to, a lot of what I do is almost sort of help them to project manage a little bit their emotions, their action plans, their going forward, strategies, coping, all of those things. And I wish to goodness I had had me or someone like me way back 7.5 years ago. And that's the reason I'm doing this, because I didn't have that. And I had to figure it all out. And that sense of feeling very scattered is probably a good word. I feel that with my clients as a divorce coach, I help them be less scattered because they can bring it all here and I can go, okay, well, I've been through a divorce, I've done my training. Let's look at this and let me see how I feel what are the questions that I feel would help you, that if you ask them and find your own answers, you would have a better sense of going forward. And to me, a divorce coach in the middle of that process is really, really, really beneficial.
Yeah. I mean, in a Facebook post, I would say agreed. To me, I think just to add to what you just said is we shall never underestimate that this is now two people being involved in a process. You know what? You can work however long and lengthy with a therapist or with a life coach if it was just you wanting to solve an issue. But the thing is, one of the clients just says, you know what, I feel my soon-to-be ex-husband is way ahead of the game. And the moment you have that, because there's two people, depending on who is in their support system and whether it's about splitting in the terminology and in the attitude of us, or whether it is about just being heard and just wanting to just win over the other person. So that is also very important, that we, from the bird's perspective, do you call it bird's eye perspective?
Bird's eye perspective, yeah.
Bird's eye perspective, we just basically bridge what potentially a therapist doesn't see and the solicitor doesn't see, because they're more in it, watching through the lens of their work scope. And I love that if we could just add that we also give that sense of security of knowing the process, that it's maybe also important to just, remind them and said, where are you along the process? Have you thought about this? Have you thought about that? We pick up information and we can put it into context and we can think immediately of potential impact that will have on the process, which is involving two people. Yeah. So, I love that too. How about, we talked with Sally. Did you have an exercise buddy? Did you have somebody who's kind of like encouraging you to do some sports?
No, outdoors. I didn't have phraseology for that. I didn't have language for that, so I didn't realize it was important. I kind of got myself by my own bootstraps and went, right, come on, sort this out, do something. And I did go to a gym towards the end of my divorce. But I really see the benefit of having someone as a friend or someone who's an exercise buddy, because it just helps the on the ground, thing. One of my clients, I was saying, we were chatting about stuff, and I was saying to her, what about starting some small at the moment? Because she doesn't feel that she has an exercise. But I said, what about the couch to 5K? But I said, don't run before you can walk, literally. But I said, if you get to week 3 and you feel that's enough for now, you can do week 3 4 times.
Yeah.
I said, so her accountability was sending me a screenshot of the results of the first day so that she'd started. So I could be a bit of an exercise buddy as a divorce coach for her. It's still that sense of support and that sense of, well done, you've done it. That sense of achievement and what's the word I would use? Celebrating the fact that you have made a step in a new direction. Because the episode we did with Sally on balanced health was brilliant, all about the idea behind nutrition and exercise and sleep and how important it is in the middle of the ups and downs that go with the divorce journey. Did you have an exercise?
No, but like you, I mean, there was a lot that didn't go well for me, but the exercising I picked up. That was we way at the beginning, we talked about the sanctuary. The running to me was my meditation. I did that. I did on my own. It was really good. May I quickly go back to when you said, what the friends bit where you said be a little bit on the cautious side, who you talk to, don't overshare. Is that something you're experiencing in your clinic, or what do you mean exactly with that?
I think it is something I experience, but also with my clients. I had a client recently who said, they said something to one of their friends, and their friend didn't really listen to what was being said and sort of just minimized it and went, oh, it can't be that bad, can it? No, I mean, so there is that sense of, oh, is it my fault? So sometimes certain people, when we say something, if we realize that type of situation is going on, and I would try and highlight to my clients, what does not feeling seen and heard look like to you? Do you feel it? Is it like a physical sensation? Is it like a shut down inside? What is it? Because a relationship like that isn't good for you if you keep going back for more. If that person keeps saying things like, oh, well, I can't be that bad, and have you tried this? And it making it about you, as in you haven't done enough, you haven't tried enough, you're over dramatizing. What that does is it minimizes and invalidates the personal experience of that person. We've all experienced that. That's a bit of a thing that happens in life, but on a divorce journey especially, there's so much shame and guilt around it, and people, if they know that we're on a divorce journey, it might unsettle them. Certainly unsettled a lot of our friends whenever, I stepped out of our marriage. Yeah. And so we never know the reasons. But I think there's something about being seen and heard in a friendship is, gosh, that sounds really tough. That's how somebody sees you and hears you. They don't have to fix it, but they just go, it sounds really tough, because it is pretty tough. The person who says, oh, okay, I don't think it's that bad, is it? That person, for whatever the reasons, isn't able to, hasn't wanted to. It doesn't really matter. It just means that if you share your heart out, it's not going to land somewhere that you're going to find you're not going to walk away feeling, oh, I'm so glad I did that. You're going to walk away feeling, oh, is it my fault? Maybe everybody's right. Maybe I shouldn't have done that. And you start second guessing and questioning yourself. So for any of our viewers listening, if this is your experience, just take note of the friendships. When you have your friendships, how do you feel when you walk away? We talked about this before, and we talked about, having coffee with certain friends, and you walked away and you just felt really, that friend, maybe not the best to discuss all the ins and outs with that person, because you then have to pick yourself up energetically to get up the next morning.
And I remember that, interestingly, because things are changing, circumstances are changing, and very often energetically, that also could mean new people come into your life. And I've heard that over and over again. If you go onto a separation journey, all of a sudden new people are passing by. And I've had then all of a sudden in my neighborhood this most amazing woman, and she was exactly what you just described. She didn't give me any second guessing of behavior. She was just validating my emotions, and every now and then subjectively, all I needed, if she didn't say what an idiot, right? You know what? On the other hand, as well, you know what? I even give this to my children. I said, you know what? When we fight, I think it's pretty natural that you say, you know what, mom is an idiot. Yes, of course, because you know what? You find me difficult at that moment. So I want them to have friends they can call us, oh, guess what mom just did. And it's the same for us. You know what, if something just happened along the divorce, there will be moments, even with the best interest of both partners, you know what, to kind of like do conscious uncoupling or this amicable split. There are moments when one does something that you really don't approve of. I mean, certainly, or else you wouldn't separate, right? there's that, and to have a phone number that you can just speed dial and say, guess what just happened, right? And that's a safety net. So you can just basically download the emotions. I mean, we talked about, I think, journaling at another point. It's just to connect with somebody and say, you know what, this is what just happened, and you just say, idiot.
Yeah, that's it. Just a little bit of validation is more than enough. But I think as humans, we find it uncomfortable because sometimes we don't know what to say and we feel like we need to talk. So it is uncomfortable, you know, that sort of don't know what to say because it's really pretty awful. But it's just, I think it's just about noticing who you are around your friends and noticing, because the thing is, it doesn't make them a bad person. It doesn't make it a bad friendship. It just means that maybe that's not the friendship. You share too much of the things going on in your life at that moment in time. And that's absolutely fine.
Yeah.
Totally fine.
Yeah. And before we wrap up, what you've just said, that concept is also very important with your lawyer. There are certain things you shouldn't share with your lawyer if they're not of importance for him or her. Move your case forward. It just basically clogs the conversation you want to have with the lawyer, because he's just looking through a different lens, right? He's just really looking at the fact and the legal part of it. So as much as you want to share certain things with the lawyer, there's nothing he can do with that. And that's exactly what happens. And or they use it to your disadvantage, because then they sometimes draft letters and then they kind of like start attacking based on this emotional confrontation you had. And don't go there. Don't go there. The lawyer is not your friend.
But that's where, you know, if somebody on divorce journey had a divorce coach, they have a divorce coach to kind of almost like verbally vomit onto the table all the stuff, and then we can help them figure out what's important, what's not important, what's underneath something, what's causing it. You know, one of my clients said to me 2 weeks ago that she feels like at least she has somewhere she can go where she can just say whatever. And I said to her, there's nothing that you're going to say to me that I haven't thought of, haven't heard, didn't expect. There's just nothing. Not on this type of journey. You know, I've either thought it, or I've heard it, or you guys have experienced it, or the clients have said it. And that's the thing. So there's no shock factor. So a lot of my clients will go, this is going to sound awful. And I now say, just say it. You don't need to pre-phrase it with that, because you're presuming I'm going to think it's terrible. And actually, I can tell you here and now, there's nothing you can say that I'm going to think is terrible.
Yeah.
Whereas that's not how we are with friends. And that's why we caveat things. But as a divorce coach, we are not a friend per se in that aspect. We are the non-judgmental, you know, okay, so that's how you think. Well, at least you recognize it.
Yeah. That's beautiful. I mean, that's exactly what I experience in my work. And I love that. I love to be that space to just dump it. And because, you know what, I'm not with you in the pool. You know what, I have the compassion for you, but I don't feel that empathy. So you drag me down. I will not, you know what, have that energy that I will provide you, and you deplete me. That's so basically. But then maybe we should just add before we wrap up, it's also very important, if you find a professional who's working with you, like a divorce coach or even therapist, you want to make sure that person stays objective. I mean, ages ago, I remember that a client came in and she says, you know what, that therapist I said, oh, that's so sad. Kept crying with me. And you know what? You don't want that. You want somebody who just really holds, kind of like a maternal or paternal person holds the wing over you, right? You can come, but you should always feel protected enough and shouldn't be feeling responsible for something that your professional coach or therapist now has. You know what? That's our job. That's why we are trained and have supervision. Yeah, make sure that you have somebody you can trust.
Yeah, but to me, the idea is about having a team and knowing that you do have a team. That's the bit I didn't know. I had the people, but I didn't know I had a team.
Yeah, that's good. That's amazing. I didn't have a team. And but at the end of the day, I know it really helps you stay grounded. You know what? There's so much change and upheaval. And if you know where to go to, have that team. So I wrap up. Who is part of your team? It should be a solicitor, depending on what jurisdiction you are in. Not in every country you have to have a lawyer, but I'm pretty sure if you are not a lawyer, and even if you're a lawyer, you are probably so subjective that you probably might not see objectively what is really in your divorce happening. So speak to a solicitor and even if you decide to represent yourself, you want to make sure that you know what is lying ahead of you. What's the jurisdiction in your environment? It could be different whether you're an expat. So you just want to make sure you have the right person who knows exactly about your circumstances. Don't just take because somebody is recommending, oh, I know so and so, does not necessarily mean that's the right person for your particular situation. Then you also had mentioned a medical team. If there is anything that needs to be accompanied, want to make sure that you have a medical team. We did talk about
because the stress is huge, and stress has an impact.
Yeah, but you also want to make sure that you mention that you're going through divorce and that doctor really realizes or knows of the impact of stress on health, that somatic experience. Because I had these tears, and then the doctor said, that neurologist, they said about, our divorce can't be that stressful. That can't be the reason you're experiencing the tears. Yeah, it was exactly it, because divorce is over, tears gone. So you want to have a financial advisor / financial planner. And if it is in your country not available, maybe you can give yourself the time and Google what's the concept behind it. So maybe you can translate it one way or the other in what you have in your environment to find the words and the status quo, because divorce is about splitting finances. And if you're on your own, you want to make sure that you are setting yourself up, that you don't fall into this divorce poverty trap. Friends, you want to make sure that you have this one validating friend that you can call and comes immediately to your side and just makes you feel really good. You don't want to have a vampire, an emotional vampire, that because you are going through something painful makes you feel that their situation or their life is worse than yours, or maybe you're wrong, your emotions are right, and you want them to be validated. End of story. And if you feel that it's difficult for you to go outside or to exercise, we know of the benefits of exercise and being out in nature. Maybe you can have somebody who kind of like gives you a little bit of the energy and makes you a little bit more accountable, or just ask and says, hey, shall we go for a walk? Watch the episode we had with Sally. Exercise doesn't necessarily mean you have to do some high impact 40 minutes sessions every 2 days. It just means to stay moving or to be moving, go into nature. Did we miss anybody? Oh, us. You want to
that small minor detail.
You if it is possible for you, maybe you can find yourself a divorce coach or a therapist, just somebody who's really there for you, who holds you. You said you had a map, and I always
the London Tube map. It's like all lines with destinations all over the place and rerouting and stuff. I remember thinking one time, it's kind of a little bit like what I do. Because I'll suggest mediation, or I'll suggest this, so I don't have to do it all. I don't have to know it all. But my role, as I see it, is to know where to direct somebody to if something comes up and I think, oh, I think this would be worth looking at. So you need an expert. So let's get you an expert in that.
That's beautiful. That's a very beautiful analogy. I look at myself very often as a safety net or as a bird. You know what? I'll look from the
above,
and I want to make sure that nothing gets dropped or gets lost along the way. I hope you enjoyed this episode. I hope you learned a lot. Please like us, subscribe us, comment, and we hope to see you very soon on our next episode on the Divorce Couch.
Yeah,
Goodbye.
thank you for watching. Bye.